So I'm Catherine Hewgill, and I'm one of the principal cellists of the Sydney Symphony Orchestra. I've been in the orchestra now for about 25 years. I'm here in my house in Paddington, one of my favourite places to be, and I live here with husband, son, and one stepson who's moved out now, and one daughter who has moved overseas. So just three of us. It's very quiet, except for the other person who still lives here, who makes a lot of noise, and that's my cello, of course. I don't have a special practice place at all, and I like to switch it around. I get bored if I practice too much in one place. At the moment, we're here in what used to be the playroom, is now the TV room and the library, but I like practicing in this room when I'm feeling mean about my practice and that I want to hear everything, because it's very dry in here, and so I really sound horrible in here, which is good. You can't get away with anything. It's an amazing story of how I came to own the cello that I now have. I was studying in Los Angeles. I was a student, and you know, we all had to make do with what we had. And then I went to my lesson one day, my cello lesson, and I had this wonderful old Hungarian teacher, Gábor Rajto, and he had happened to go into a violin shop in Los Angeles the day before, where he knew the shop owner, who said to him, "I've got this cello that's just been brought in, I'd really love you to try it and see what you think of it." So he tried it, and then he said, "I know someone who will love this instrument." So I turned up at my lesson, and then he said, "You know, I have a surprise for you." And there was this extra cello case in the corner of the room. And then I just played one note. I remember it was a bottom D, and I was instantly, you know, I had to have that cello. And I rang my poor father in Australia and said, "Dad, you know, I found this cello, I'm completely in love with it." And he said, "Well, that's great, how much is it?" And so then I told him, and he said, "Well, that's very nice, dear, but you'll have to find some lovely rich person in America who could maybe buy it for you and loan it to you for life." So I'd had it out on loan for 3 months. So I had a big concerto concert with an orchestra. And then the violin shop owner rang on the Friday, and he said, "Look, I'm really sorry, but the owners of this cello is getting a little bit antsy. You've had it for so long. You have to make a decision tonight about whether you're going to buy it or not. And if you can't, then I need to have it back in the shop tomorrow morning." So I freaked out, rang my poor father again and said, "Dad, you know, I've got this concert on Monday. I can't now change back to my old cello in such a short period of time." And so he said, "Well, I'll call you back in half an hour." And so in that half an hour, he had a family meeting. They decided that, yeah, I should have this instrument. So he called me back half an hour later and in a very small voice said, "Well, I'm going to buy that cello for you." A few years later, I became quite ill, and I didn't play the cello for a while. I sort of gave up for about 8 or 9 months, and I felt really bad because you know, my father had sacrificed quite a bit to buy me this instrument. And so I said to him during that time, I said, "Look, Dad, you know, if you want to sell the cello, I totally understand, because I'm not really making the most of it at the moment." And he said to me, he said, "Look, if anything ever happened to you, even if for some reason you died," he said, "I would never sell that cello, because to me that's a part of you." About 11 years ago he died, my father died, and I feel like now that cello represents my father to me, and so it's a very, very personal thing.